Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have Jamie Costello. He's been through the Evolution program working with me one-to-one over the past 6 months. Jamie is the founder of Red Pick Media. So he has a number of different services and companies within there. But his biggest hit is done with you marketing support for fitness professionals that are looking to acquire new customers. Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kieran. It's good to be on.
I'm actually curious, how did you find me? Because I actually never asked you that.
I found you because I had seen you on social media. I had seen a couple of your ads. And then when I started to look, I seen who you had worked with. A lot of quite similar people to me. And when I started looking at testimonials, reviews, case studies, people were struggling with the same thing I was struggling with. So that's how I found you.
Cool. And if you just explain to our audience, like, what is it that you do on a day-to-day basis? What does life look like for Jamie?
Yeah, so I run Red Pick Media. Inside of that, we have what's called the Quality Lead Formula. We help fitness professionals, health, fitness, nutrition coaches grow their business through pretty advanced advertising, a lot of AI now. So I think we're pretty much at the forefront of AI in the health space. We help them with anything that grows their business. So advertising, lead gen, call booking, sales, and retention, so that they're not struggling with, I think the most common problem we find is low lead quality and inconsistency or fluctuations in their business. We solve that.
Gotcha. And in terms of the team setup, how's the team set up? You're obviously leading a team.
Yep. So leading a team, that has grown really nicely over the last couple of months. So we have a team around us now of maybe seven or eight, including one VA. So we have experts in different areas of growing health businesses. We have a sales expert who has built 8-figure health sales teams, health fitness sales teams. We have a retention expert. We have a ads and automation expert. And all of those, my team basically becomes my client's team. So they are all part of the service delivery with what we help coaches with.
Gotcha. And earlier you were talking about, you were looking through the testimonials, the case studies, and there were a lot of them on there were struggling with the things that you were wrestling with. So what was it? Because I remember on our first call, I don't know if you remember this thing that you said to me. You said, I'm here for the purpose, because I asked you, are you here for business or are you here for personal? Like, well, what are you here for? Well, what do you want? And you said, I'm here for the personal side, but the objective of being here for the personal side is to be a better man so I can scale my business and generate more revenue. But what were the symptoms? What were the things that you were wrestling with to begin with that was getting into your own head or slowing you down?
Yeah, I think I remember you saying to me on one of the calls as well, when I filled out the application form to work with you, I literally said, I am in pain.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And look, it's quite hard to look back and resonate with that version of me. But I was in a weird position. I was making more money than I ever had before. I had more money than I ever had before. But I felt completely broke. I felt just panicky every single day. As if I wasn't safe in the business. And that was a big thing that we worked on together, was just realizing that everything's okay. And the business is not going to fall out from underneath me. There is a very solid foundation there. But I think I had gotten to a point where this old version of me was struggling to catch up with this new version of me, where business was going good and clients were getting good results and everyone was happy. And I think I struggled to feel safe in that it was going to last, and that I was able to push it the direction I wanted it to go. I think that was my main struggle. I was waking up each day just panicky. And I said to you a number of times, I was a slave to the strike balance. That was my main metric for, am I good at business? And if I wasn't good at business, I wasn't the person that I knew I could be. So I came to you for the personal side, knowing that once I figured this out, it would grow the business. So, long way around that, I came to you for the business. But I knew I was holding myself back. I knew there was something holding me back that I couldn't quite get past. And until I did, either the business would keep going up and down, or I would just continue to feel the way I was feeling. So that's what I came to you for.
Yeah. And it's a really good catch, because people often think they need more information, and they think information is going to be the thing that makes them feel better or feel different. But actually, you studied this stuff in your business, in the market, in leadership. You'd been studying for a long time. So it wasn't an information problem, it was a feeling problem. And a lot of my clients, they're smashing it. Business is good, they're growing, they have momentum, but they don't feel like they're smashing it. They don't feel safe. And that's something that's really important, because if you can't feel safe, then how are you going to be able to take things up a notch? And the mind doesn't want to grow into pain. So you did say that. I'm in pain. I was like, this is a very self-aware guy. He knows what that is. Great. But the unconscious mind doesn't want to grow into pain. So unconsciously, if you're stressing and worrying and anxious and panicky at that point, the unconscious mind is going to keep you safe and not take the risk required to go and scale your business, because unconsciously the brain is going, well, if I feel like this now, if I double this thing, am I going to feel double the amount of pain? And often that's the bit that people forget, that when you work on you and you get out of your own way, because I don't know anything about your business and how you should scale that. I don't know any of that. But I'm nailing this, and for the podcast listeners, I'm pointing at the head, the mind, the heart, the soul, the spirit. Once you start to nail that, you've already got the frameworks, you know what you're doing to then go and scale that company. And I can see that, you just look at the way in which you show up on the personal side, and then also the business results and the financial results you're experiencing. Like, there's a testament that I came here for this, you built those foundations, and look at the outcome. So bravo.
Yeah, I think I had experienced before that when you double the business, you don't double the problems, you 10x the problems. It doesn't grow the same way. And I knew we were on the verge of really growing, because everything that I've done has been product first, build it and they'll come. I knew that. So we had never done a major push. I knew it was coming when I felt a little bit more comfortable with what we had built. But I think a lot of people will resonate with this. As an entrepreneur, you're constantly striving. And I struggle with the idea of anytime I've hit a financial goal, I've already had the other one set. So as an entrepreneur, you're always striving, which means you have desire, but that desire, I guess, can manifest as wanting. And wanting can manifest as just not being happy because you don't have what you want, although you already hit some of the goals you set yourself. And I could see this circle happening, and I was kind of thinking, I want to always be striving. I want to always be growing. Does that mean I'm always going to be unhappy with the position I'm in? And I couldn't figure out how to get around that. Am I going to be okay with always trying to work this hard and always go for the next thing? And when I hit it, it doesn't really matter because I've already had the next goal in place. So I was like, how do I get around this feeling of I'm not where I want to be? Because I don't think it's ever going to go away. So making peace with that and figuring out that that is not actually the game I'm playing. That game is part of a championship, and it's all a bunch of different little games. So understanding, one, I was safe, and two, it's okay to always be striving, but not in this laborer way that we kind of came to figure out I was in, which I think served me really well to get to where I was. Work ethic is probably one of my strengths, I would say. But it was leaving me, I think, constantly half burnt out. Where, we came up with this analogy working together of I was sprinting from one destination to the other. But when I got to my destination, I was sweaty, I was burnt out. I was, in a pool of sweat on the ground, as opposed to just going there smoothly, like from point A to point B to point C, and ending up at the destination actually cool, calm, and collected. So that was a big thing for me.
So the level of thinking and feeling that got you to this level wasn't the level of thinking and feeling that's going to take you to the next level. And people think that the next level is binary. It's just numbers, it's just finances, but it's not true, because you have to be able to, your central nervous system has to be able to hold a new level of complexity, a new level of stress, a new level of risk for you to go and take the action required to go and get to that next league and that next level. So essentially what we've done is we've taken your previous software and we've put in a series of software updates to go, well, A doesn't have to equal B on that equation anymore. Making more money doesn't have to mean more stress. Making more money doesn't have to be so scary and burn out and crashing yourself there. You can actually do it in a way that's sustainable. And the more that you can do that sustainably, the more you're going to stay in the game, the more consistently you can stay in the game. The compound effect of you as an individual, but then actually as a company owner, where the company can go, two completely different ball games. And I think you're starting to see that now as you're gathering that momentum and you're more calm, you're more settled, you're more balanced.
100%. Yeah, I think it was probably the biggest shift I had to make was, I think you did it tactfully, introducing the idea of actually taking time off in the middle of the week. where when you said it to me first, I said, I can't. I don't want to. I need to work. The more I work, the more productive I am, the more I get done, the more output I have. That was my thing. I was like, if I'd taken time off, my output is not going to be where I feel it needs to be. And that was really hard for me to do first, was take time off in the middle of the week and think it wasn't really the wheels were going to fall off. And the first time I did it was one of the best mornings I've had in a long time. I was living in Barcelona at the time, and I just went to the zoo.
I remember you texting me, yeah.
And we were doing some work at the moment, or at that time, and I guess what you would call like the inner child, which I guess looking back I thought was a little bit woo-woo. I thought it was kind of, inner child work, hippy-dippy stuff, but yeah, the first call we had, it opened my eyes a little bit. I remember going to the zoo, feeling as if I was seeing it from my own perspective now, and as myself as a kid. And it was just the most enjoyable thing. I was just going around looking at giraffes and looking at hippopotamus and thinking it was amazing, and not thinking about work. And coming back that evening, just excited to get into work again. And I was like, okay, it makes sense. I can see it now. Which is funny because the first call we had, I had to wait a little while to work with you.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
I had to wait maybe 3 weeks or a month or something like that. And I was very honest with you. I sent you a voice note probably 2 weeks into that wait period.
Yeah, I remember.
I said, Kieran, I'm actually having buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this. Like, we haven't done anything yet. I just hadn't had any value yet. And you're like, do you remember what you said to me?
Remind me.
I think you said to me we were talking about how this was probably part of my problem, was not having patience. Or realizing that to actually get where I wanted to go was probably going to be a little bit slower. So we got on the first call, and yeah, I ended up in tears, weirdly, which doesn't happen very often. And then after that call, I was like, okay, I made the right investment here.
Yeah.
I could see where it was about to go.
It's funny because actually on the call before you signed up, one of the words I wrote down, if you just look at my notes, it's like this infinite scroll. I take a lot of notes because I'm tracking language patterns and understanding thought processes and unconscious equations. But one of the things I wrote down is, this guy needs to work on patience. And then you messaged me because I remember. And again, you're very succinct with your self-awareness. I'm experiencing buyer's remorse. I am in pain. You're very explicit with that. And I had a smile in there, because when it comes to coaching and being a world-class coach, you can either be a waiter, yes sir, okay, let me see what I can do, or so you can either please or you can serve. So if I wanted to please you, I would have said, let me speak to my assistant, let me see what we can do, let me try and move some stuff around, but that wouldn't have been serving you. And when I have somebody that's in pain and experiencing buyer's remorse, as a coach and a mentor, of course I want to help you. But the easy thing isn't helping you. Jamie, you have to learn to be a bit more patient. Breathe. This is part of the problem. This rush to get everything now. That's not how great lives are built, and that's not how great businesses were built. So even on my side, because we teach what we need to learn as mentors, as leaders, patience. It was a reminder for me. Patience. Cool. Because my clients are just projecting the same challenges that I've had back to me over and over and over again. So I could see that coming up. And one of the first things on your first call as well, I had written in bold, was creativity. So one of your lines was, my creativity is down. And I don't know why. So me sending you on a half day in the middle of the week on a little excursion, whether that's to the zoo, whether that's wherever you go, you're doing work unconsciously when you're not even realizing. So you are able to solve problems and be more creative because you're not so focused on the thing. And when you're so focused on the thing, it's not going to work. Do you ever play Where's Wally?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if you remember as a kid, right? You'd like, where is he? And you're staring at, where's Wally? Well, Wally, for you, represents the problem that you're trying to solve, the creative problem. So the more you try and stare and you get really difficult, whatever, you can't find him. And then you go and make yourself a cup of juice or a cup of tea, and you come back and, he's there. It's the same sort of thing. So your unconscious mind is already processing the equations. But the second thing with creativity is the ability to connect one piece of stimulus to another piece of stimulus with very loose associations. So you, being in the zoo, You might see something that goes, maybe I need to be a bit more of an eagle. Maybe I need to be more of a lion. Actually, maybe I just need to have a bit more fun, because creativity is also linked to fun and enjoyment. So when you got that kid, he's running around, he's seeing this and enjoying himself. By the time you come back, you're like, oh, I've expressed that, I've played, but you weren't playing enough. So when you start to play, you start to make more unconscious equations being solved and making more associations with novel things in a new environment. By the time you get back to your desk, your whole business, your whole problem set is completely different, because you've just shaken the unconscious snow globe. Whereas if you're stood behind your desk, you're just in like a rotting pond, just not really doing anything, trying to solve the same equation, underslept, stressed and tired. So that's where you're now starting to implement that, and you're going to stay in the game longer. You're going to solve more problems. And we also have a forfeit on at the moment, I believe.
We do have a forfeit on at the moment, yeah. Just before I mentioned that, I remember at that zoo, I bought a keyring for myself. It was kind of like I was buying it for my younger self, because I remember as a kid, if we would go somewhere like that, you can't go into those shops because they're always expensive. Everything in there is expensive. And it was expensive. It was like €15 for a keyring. But I got it and I was like, of course I can buy it.
Yeah.
You know? And actually before that I probably would have laughed at it and be like, why would I buy something like that for that price? I know it's overpriced. But it was a little bit of awareness of like, you are safe. Of course you can spend 15 quid on a keyring. But it was a little momentum, like a little token that I still have on my keys that just kind of reminds me of course you're safe. You know, everything's okay. And to play more. That was a big thing.
Totems are important. They are really, really important because it's symbolism. If you look at, we're not going to go into the whole topic, right? But let's look at Christianity. What's the totem? It's the cross. So us as human beings have attached ourselves to totems to mean certain things. So you as a kid will have had these various different little totems that you'd attach to or you'd want to use, and we can use that in our performance. So for me, working with my mentor, I've got a guy called Mountain Eagle Kieran. So if you think about an eagle, they're not flapping around like pigeons. They're also not like, like fish, like sharks, like swimming around all the time. Eagles are just cruising. And then they see the target, and then they go in, they take it, they get out, and then they cruise again. They're very wise. They're able to rise above. There are actually animals that try to kill eagles, other birds. What they do is they take the birds to an altitude where they suffocate them because those birds can't stay there, and the birds die or they let go because they're able to see that higher view. So that's a symbol for me. So in my office, I've got a picture behind my desk, and it's a mountain with an eagle at the top with its wings spread. So that's a totem. We can use totems to symbolize various different things, whether that's from childhood, whether that's as adults, just to give your unconscious mind the reminder that that's what I want to be, or that's how I can feel. So that keyring might represent safety. So it's a reminder, I am safe, I'm abundant, I'm cool, I've got everything that I need. So I'm really glad that you picked that up and you shared that, because that's very important.
Yeah, it was, I can remember the day, like fully. It was a really different experience. I hadn't felt it before. And I have a little picture of me as a 6-year-old as my screensaver since we started working on this.
Beautiful.
To remind myself of it. But it was a big thing that I had never actually done before, just to take time away from work in the middle of the week. It would have drove me insane when we started working together, to be away from work and think that everything was going to be okay, and not really take a moment just to get away from it, because again it's quite a hard one. You don't really want to be away from it when you like what you do and you love the game. Although it can stress you out if you don't manage it properly, you don't really want to be away from it. So taking the time away was tough, but I saw the light after I did that. I realized what you were doing with me. And now we have a bet on at the moment that if I don't take my Wednesday mornings off for 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks was the minimum, yeah.
6 weeks was the minimum. That I'm buying a cabana for you and a couple of mates. Drink tab is on me. I'm not allowed to go. Yeah, you asked me. You said you could buy the cabana. We'd go for drinks. I was like, that sounds fun. Yeah. It doesn't sound like a punishment at all. So the rule is I have to pay for it, but I can't go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Forfeits are fun as well, because we can use forfeits as, number one, the forfeit's got to be, I really don't want to do that. I really, really don't want to do that. So that's one part. But it's also another way of staying accountable and making the process fun. You can use other forfeits as well. I had one client who's a particular bro, and he said, I'm going to eat a tin of dog food if I don't do this, and I'm going to put it in my story. I was like, look, if that's what gets you going, if that inspires action, then fine.
He didn't do it?
No, he stuck to his word. He got it done. So
they work.
Yeah, they work.
Especially if the person is a competitive person.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to give it up.
Yeah.
So, no, they do work.
That's it. So when we look at you now, right, and even if we just take feeling more safe, feeling more calm, taking more downtime, a lot of people would assume, and this happens a lot, is, yeah, but all of that fear and that doubt and that scarcity and that panic, that's kind of what's kept me alive in business, and I'm really afraid if I let that go, I'm not going to be able to go on and progress and also feel happy and enjoy what I do. What would you say to people that are a little bit nervous about changing or exploring this stuff?
I think it's going to take work for anybody to realize that you don't have to work as much as you think you do. For me, growing up, was my parents were, let's say, my first mentors, I guess, and taught me what work was. So I named my company after my dad's little red pickup truck. So it's called Red Pig Media, after his old red pickup truck that was in our family for a long time. And you won't mind me saying, but it was kind of a piece of shit, but it never stopped working. It always loved work. He works with concrete, and that was my first kind of introduction to work, which was you work hard. And when you get your money, you don't spend it all in one place. And that was, deeply ingrained. I'd worked on that before. I think I'd worked on the money side of it before. But labourer Jamie was something we kind of uncovered together, which was you work hard. And that's how you become successful. I remember mornings or days working with him. He taught me that if you're going to do something, it has to be done right, and that you have to spend time doing it right. And we would be doing somebody's driveway or working with concrete, and we would spend an hour fixing a little corner that no one was ever going to see. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I just wanted to go home and get out of the cold. But I seen how in demand he was, because people knew if you got him, he was going to do it right. So that stuck with me a lot. And I had worked consistently since I was 13. I got my first job. Ever since then, I never really stopped. But I never had the experience of, you don't have to work this hard. You can eventually get to a point where it can become a little bit easier and you can step away from it. I don't think it happens quick. I think you have to work yourself to that position. So I think anybody listening, you probably have that side of you that's serving you now. But equally, it will keep you where you are.
Yeah.
I think it will cage you in, and you will continue going around in a circle without actually growing.
I want to be really clear to everyone that's listening on the podcast. This is very different from somebody that's sat around procrastinating and overwhelmed and not implementing and not doing that. I want to be really clear, because some people think that my philosophy is, just take loads of time off, rest, relax. No. Most of my clients don't have a hard work issue. Working hard is the default. Their problem is they work too hard, so they burn themselves into the floor and they miss the opportunities that are right in front of them, and they can't execute and they can't be creative and take advantage of those. On the flip side, we do have another percentage of clients where they're so overwhelmed, they're procrastinating, they're anxious, they're afraid, and they actually don't need to take more time off because they're not doing anything. They actually need to work on the emotional issues. Whereas you were driving the car at 130 miles an hour, the engine's going all the time, and actually it wasn't the most effective way to get around the track. So by taking your workload down by just half a day in the middle of the week, that's the tweak we're talking about.
Yep.
Not Jamie's not working hard.
Yep.
I want to be really clear on that distinction. You can already see how you're getting sharper, but it was the emotional side and the psychological side that would have stopped you from being able to do that. So I'd love to talk about fear.
Yeah, I think what's worth noting there, was, again, when we were kind of going through this, I was living in Barcelona, and I had maybe a 15-minute walk to the gym each day. I would either walk, or from time to time I would get a little electric scooter or a little electric bike. And in Barcelona, it was a straight road all the way to the gym, but it was lights every couple of minutes. But the bikes, the scooters would have kind of their own little lane. And this was the easiest way for me to kind of figure out what I was doing, because I was either starting a month really well or finishing a month really well. Somewhere in the middle it would fall off. Or maybe the start of the month was terrible and I'd pick it up halfway through and I'd hit my target. What I was kind of doing was thinking about that journey to the gym. I was sprinting from light to light, hitting all the reds along the way. And this other version of me that I could see was just taking the electric scooter or the electric bike all the way.
Consistent,
smooth, and I could see both of them ending up at the same place. The guy that was sprinting was there much slower, but he was also just worn out. And this was the easiest way for me to figure out I have to stop, because I felt burnout before, maybe twice, like real burnout, where you just don't want to get out of bed. You can't. You don't want to go to work. Everything just stops. And I hadn't been hitting that point. So in my head I was like, I'm not burnt out.
Yeah, that was the standard that you were measuring yourself to.
Yeah, it was.
I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah. What I think was happening to me was I was burning myself out a little bit every month. And then I would come back to either panic would set in that I wasn't about to hit targets at the end of the month, and I'd override that little bit of burnout and get back sprinting. And then by the middle of next month I'd be mini burnt out again. So it was just complete push all the time. It wasn't showing itself, it wasn't manifesting itself as business up and downs. Business was good, but it was showing itself as just emotional up and down constantly.
You're a football man, right?
Yeah.
Remember Arjen Robben? Ian Robben?
Yeah.
Played for Chelsea, winger, right? And then you got Thierry Henry. What is the difference between Ian Robben and Thierry Henry? Well, Ian Robben was a striker who was very inconsistent. On his day, top of the world. When he wasn't on his day, awful. Sometimes he'd say, I don't feel like it today and I wouldn't want to play. So as a result, he'd have flashes of brilliance, but he couldn't maintain it. Thierry Henry, on the other hand, if we give him the ball, he's going to score a goal. And it's about having that consistency over time versus flashes of brilliance. So when it comes to business, instead of being stuck in these mini burnout cycles and driving around into the floor, so 1 minute you're like Ian Robben on top of his world, and then you're absolutely pants and you can't hit a donkey on the arse of a banjo. It's getting to a place where you're consistent with your energy and your focus. And that's really what we were working with you on, is instead of you sprint, burnout, can't perform, sprint, burnout, can't perform, how can we just get in the cruising seat? When you remember Thierry Henry in his peak, he was just an animal. He was just bearing down on the goal. We know if we give him the ball, he's going to do a bit of magic. He was rested, very rarely injured, top of his game, right? And that's essentially what we're talking about here, is how can we build a mindset where you can be more balanced, more stable, more calm under fire, and not breaking those boundaries insofar as rest and recovery, whilst having the confidence to go, I can get to the next level and I'm not going to end up crashing and burning. And that's really what I see when it comes to you. But fear is a big component of what keeps people trapped in that space. Fear of it's either failure, fear of business, fear of success. So I'm curious, how was fear showing up for you right at the beginning, and how is it manifesting, stopping you from building the business, enjoying the process?
Good question. I think most of my fear was very much internal. Like I'm definitely my own worst critic. Realistically, I think what we uncovered was my fear was just lost potential. It's probably my biggest fear, is knowing that I could have done more and just didn't, or I never really got to the point where I knew I could. And I think that comes back to what we were speaking about before, is I'm probably never going to be satisfied, but being okay with that. So fear was a big thing for me. I think it was fear of failure was the biggest one, but that's surface level. I think that if you trickle down was my thing was fear of feeling stupid. It was a big one for me. It was fear of feeling stupid. And for me, again, I was attributing that to Stripe Balance. I was attributing that to sales. And I was looking around and all these other people were making all this other money. And I was feeling inferior, or feeling more stupid, or how can I not do that? I must not be good enough, right? I must not be smart enough to do that. That kept coming around in my head. So I think it was fear, and it was more so fear of what I would think about myself, which was maybe a little bit more scary. Knowing I could go far, but being really afraid that I wouldn't. And I think that fear was really holding me back.
Yeah, and fear is such a fascinating emotion because we're hardwired to feel fear. Generationally, we're from fearful people. It wasn't the rule breakers that survived. It wasn't the ones that were jumping off of cliffs and eating random berries. They didn't survive. They died because they were far too confident, right? So genetically and societally, we've been the survivors with the fearful ones. We don't live in the jungle anymore. Our jungle is maybe, a series of technology and sales and marketing and building a business and hiring a team and doing all of those things. So you've got to learn to harness fear. You've got to learn to understand it and understand it's going to come back again and again and again. But yes, we do a lot of emotional work to bring that fear down. But at the same time, we're building your courage. We're building your bravery. You're building your level of confidence and safety. So all of a sudden, same amount of fear just doesn't really affect you the same way. And being at peace with you're never going to be satisfied, and actually that doesn't have to be a bad thing, that can actually be a good thing, that will remove a lot of pressure. Why aren't I satisfied? Why don't I've achieved this, and why don't I feel like the next thing? Well, if you completed life, it'd be boring. So it's understanding that it's great to have goals and go after them and enjoying that level of dissatisfaction in the pursuit of the goal, but not forgetting to enjoy the journey en route. And I think that was the bit where you'd gotten a little stuck, because you wasn't enjoying the journey anymore, and you're thinking, what am I going to do more of this and push myself to these extremes?
I think I was fearful of probably the wrong things anyway. Realistically looking at it now, the fear was that I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now. If the wheels fell off and I had to go and get a job again, that was the biggest fear. So when I look at that now, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. So I should just be happy with the progress that I'm making and actually being able to work on this thing that I like doing. The fear isn't not getting to the goal. The fear is not being able to do it anymore. And I don't see that happening. So I've moved on a little bit from that fear. I've moved on a lot from that fear. I don't think it's there anymore. The fear would be not being able to do it anymore. And I think continuing going the way I was going, that would probably happen a lot faster.
Yeah. And you got to enjoy what you do, right? Because at some point there's something about marketing that you enjoy. There's something when you're looking at what you're doing, whether it's the ads, the data, the numbers, whether it's just creating mechanisms that unlock new opportunities. You got to have fun. And when you have too much pressure and too much stress, you don't have enough fun, then you kind of lose the love of the game.
Marketing is all creativity. It's realistically, I think it's all creativity. It's trying something and seeing if it works. And if it does, great, do more of it. And if it doesn't, we'll try something else. So it's constantly trying new things. We have 26, 28 different systems, strategies, automations, all built up from scratch that we use for coaches. And being able to be creative again is just allowing us to build more. The fun part is testing them, and when you see them work, maybe it's satisfying, that thing that's me wanting to feel smart somewhere deep down, but it's adding a huge amount of value to our clients, to their lives. That's the fun part about it, but you have to be creative. You have to be creative, and I think you also have to be somewhat unemotional, which I had always said to myself, there's no room for emotions here, which I think was maybe a little bit too black and white, because if there's no emotions, there's no creativity.
Correct. Well, think what does marketing do, right? It creates an emotion within somebody to then take an action. So there's always a dance in marketing, and I'm not a marketeer per se, right? But I've worked in software companies that sell marketing platforms. Some people think it's data, kind of like boxing as well. Some people think it's a science. Some people think it's an art. Arguably, it's a bit both, right? You can have all the data, you can have all the systems, you can have all the structure. Great. But every now and then you got to go, I'm just sort of licking my finger and putting it to the air for the podcast listeners on the Spotify. But sometimes you got to play with that. You got to have different angles. One of my friends gave me a great metaphor recently, which is you have the chocolate bar, and that's the core service, right? So a chocolate bar by itself, if we just look at chocolate bar on the table, it's kind of useless. But then you've got the wrapper, and the wrapper is the offer, and the wrapper is the marketing. And we can all have the same chocolate bar, but if it's got different wrappers, you and I will be drawn to different wrappers, then go and get the same product. So marketing is the ability to create, because the service Obviously, you have to have a great product, because if you don't have a great product, you're going to have a tough time marketing it and selling it and whatever. So the ability to create messaging or create emotions within people that need that service to then take action or product in order to get that. So it's an inherently creative act. And creativity isn't only in data. It's from art, music, science, connections, humans. Because who buys things? Humans buy things. Okay, well, how do we get humans to do stuff? Well, we've got to be able to market to them. How do we market to them? We've got to understand them. We've got to show them. But your assumption and my assumption on what might work and might not work, it's irrelevant. It's what the market will determine as to whether that works or not. So that's a creative act. And you have to have the balance of the two of, here are the numbers, here's the data, but then also here's the creativity to make that spin. And that's your job, is to be that structured guy that can give the structure to an entrepreneur in chaos, whilst having the creative element going, why don't you just tweak that there? And that's the fun bit.
It was like the example of you go to the store for a drill or a drill bit, but you don't want a drill or a drill bit because on its own it doesn't do anything. You actually want a hole in the wall, but you don't just want a hole in the wall because nobody does. You want a place to hang a picture. But you don't want to hang a picture. You actually want the feeling that hanging a picture in your house gives you. And if you go and find Black & Decker advertising for drills, it's usually a guy hanging a picture in a house. Because the marketing understands it's all about emotion. Nobody cares about just hanging a picture. It's the feeling that it gives you. So I think looking back, me trying to take all of my emotion out of my business and just look at it at numbers, or even just looking at the marketing as numbers, even that was holding me back a little bit because I didn't have the creativity.
Creativity is, first of all, it's fun, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing more fun than just playing with ideas and saying, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? But it's also the thing that no one can steal from you.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. I think also looking back at that was, when I came to you, I was viewing my business as like life and death.
Yeah, it was. It was very much everything, all or nothing.
All or nothing, which it wasn't allowing me to play inside the business at all. When I started playing inside the business, I was like, we just tried this new ad and it worked. And the business started growing.
I remember that particular campaign that you run where you was like, I'm just going to let's see what happens. And one didn't work and then one did. That was you playing.
It was me playing, yeah. I think the only time I was almost forced into that play when the burnout was kicking in. I was like, you better sort something out here. You better figure something out. What am I going to do? Come up with an idea. Generally, when I would be backed into a corner, I'd come out swinging. It has always worked. Anytime I've had, downturns in business for whatever reason. I remember what I'm doing now in terms of the Done For You service with coaches, where we help them and we give them all the systems. And we really try and change their business by allowing them to market their own business, so they're not reliant on an agency anymore. That usually is quite expensive and more often than not doesn't really work out that well. That came from the worst month in business I ever had, where I nearly lost everything. And it was, I tried to start this other business. I was feeling good about this one. It was kind of working. I had my team in place and got into business with the wrong person. Ended up with nothing, or less than nothing, I should say. Then turned around to this business and that was nearly on its knees. I was like, okay, we need to do something different, which is when we completely turned things around and went with this version of Done With You, where we're teaching people how to actually do it for themselves using everything that we've proven. I turned around, the team wasn't being managed anymore. I had the wrong people in place, and when I just turned around, nobody was working anymore. But that really bad month ended up turning everything around for us. And I've kept that with me, knowing that if things do turn around, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. And as one door closes, another door opens. And the more that you become confident that as a door closes, another door is going to open, you start becoming less afraid of doors being shut.
True.
And you get more excited about doors being opened. So an exercise I invite you to do after this podcast is just write down, and anyone that's listening, just write down 3 things, 3 doors that have been shut in your face, but then also watch doors opened off the back of that. And what you'll see is a pattern. At this relationship ended, my world ended. But actually that led to a new job, or I moved cities. That led to my next relationship, led to my next career, or whatever. So the more that you become calm and confident with doors shutting and slamming in your face, the more opportunity you have to be creative. Have you heard the story of the Chinese farmer and the horses? Such a good story.
Great.
For those that are listening, I'm going to butcher it, but essentially, there's an old man, he's a farmer, he's got a farm, and he's got a son. And one day, in comes this horse, and all the villagers go, "Wow, that's so lucky! Like you've got this horse." And he's like, "Yeah, maybe." And then eventually the horse runs away, and everybody goes, "Oh, that's so bad, that's so unlucky, you've lost your horse." And the old man goes, "Maybe." And then one day, when the boy is going out looking for the horse, he brings back a whole horde of horses. He's like, "Wow, that's so lucky." And the old man goes, "Maybe." And then the horse, the boy is trying to tame one of the horses, and he breaks one of his legs. And the fat village goes, "Ah, that's so unlucky." And that farmer goes, "Maybe." Then the local military come in, and they're saying, "Hey, I need your young man. He needs to come to war for conscription." And we can't. He's broken his leg, so he got out of conscription. The whole villagers go, "Oh, it's so lucky," and he goes, "Maybe." So it's the idea that anything that happens, it doesn't really matter whether it's good or bad, and it's the same with decision making. It doesn't matter which decision you take. You just need to take one, and you just have to trust that it'll all figure itself out. And I think that's where courage and confidence comes from. Not from being loud, not from being, just this braggadocious, "Oh, look at me, I'm so confident." It comes from, actually, I back myself and I believe myself to figure things out, even when the chips are down. And what might be good might not be good. And what might be bad might not be bad. And moving through life with a level of calm consistency, that's where you're going to enjoy the journey more and produce more results than the opposite.
Do you find, let's say your mentors, people that are mentoring you, are able to take their emotions out of situations when things turn bad, and they have that idea of maybe this is bad, I don't know?
Great question. I was actually with my mentor this morning, my mentor Ron. He's been my mentor for 8 years. Changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. I pitched him for 50 grand,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, "No thanks, your business is flawed." And I said, "Why?" And within 30 minutes on a whiteboard of me, I went from, "Can you give me 50 grand, please?" to, "Oh, I need to close my business down. My whole business model is flawed, and the pivot is not going to work." So I walked out of that £15,000 in debt, and I was like all over the place. And then Ron said, "I like you. Keep in touch." So I dropped him a text. "Hey Ron, I was wondering, can you help me? If there was one book," because I'm skint at this point. I'm like down and out. I'm skint. I'm living on my auntie's sofa in a 1-bedroom council flat on an estate in South London. Girlfriend at the time broke up with me. I've lost my place on the England boxing team. Business is gone. Like really down and out. And I said, "Hey Ron, I'm fed up of being skint. Can you help me? Can you give me a book to read?" He goes, "Yeah, read Rich Dad Poor Dad." And I'm in this really emotional state, right? So I'm panicking and I'm worried and whatever. And I give him a call on his mobile, and he goes, "Kieran, what do you want? How can I help?" And I said, "I read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad." He goes, "Yeah? How did you find it?" I said, "Amazing. Would you be my rich dad?" And he goes, "What?" And he goes, I go, "Yeah. Will you be my rich dad?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you're like me. You came from a background where no one had built businesses before, and you've built some successful businesses and investments and whatever. And I'd really appreciate it if you can help me." And he goes, "Okay, well, yeah, sure. How can I help? What do you want? What do you want?" And I said, "I want to pay you £100 for an hour of your time per month." And he goes, "You're skint. You can't afford that." And I said, "Exactly, but that's how I know you'll respect the time." And from there, he was teaching me how to stay calm, how to find opportunity, how to, when the whole world feels like it's falling down, actually there's opportunity within the chaos. And actually what's funny is 8 years later, I have the same direct debit running for £100 a month, and that's been running for the last 8 years. Literally saw him this morning. He's just in town for a business meeting for 2 days. So he taught me something called the King, the Warrior, the Magician, and the Lover. Did we ever cover this in any of your sessions?
Didn't, no.
Okay, so you're going to love this. So you got your warrior, right? So you have a very strong warrior. The warrior is the part of you that gets shit done. It works hard. It's aggressive. It has conflict. It goes and it pushes and it pushes and it pushes. We need our warriors. We can't operate without them. The downside is they burn out. They affect your relationships. They create arguments for the sake of creating arguments. Every strength has a weakness, and every light has a dark side. Then you have the magician. So the magician is the creative part. It's got all these various different ideas. It can spot opportunities. It can make connections. It can go, if we put this here and here, we can create this. But it's also very anxious, because it can also imagine its own downfall, and it can become scared and afraid and nervous and anxious. Then you've got the lover. Wants to help, wants to give, wants to nurture, wants to nourish. But an ineffective lover will people please and will give and give more than they have to give. So what Ron taught me was you have a warrior, you have a magician, and you have a lover, and they all have their place. But you have to learn to become a king. And I said, what do you mean, Ron? What do you mean become a king? And he goes, well, the king looks at what's required for the entire kingdom. The king can look at, okay, maybe I was going to rush in there with my warrior, but that's actually not what I need to do, because that's not going to help, because we don't actually have the resources there. Maybe we need to get more creative with our magician. So the king can see the land through the chaos, stay calm, stay clear, stay concise, and then almost pick an emotion or pick an energy. Mm-hmm. The chips are down. I need to go to fucking work. Warrior, go and get that done. Or, this is a real problem. We can't really solve that. Actually, working harder is not the answer. Let's pull back. Let's put the magician in there. Magician, we need to solve this. Or, you're people pleasing too much. We need to pull back on the lover. Or actually, I was going to go warrior on a team member or my partner, or I was going to get really aggressive. Actually, what they need is the lover. So I'm going to deploy the lover in this moment. So what he was teaching me was we can't get rid of emotions. We're going to experience emotions again and again and again, especially in business, because he's not a psychologist. He's a business guy. But he said, you've got to learn to control those emotions, and you've also got to learn to choose what energy are you going to embody. Do you need to embody the warrior, the magician, the lover? So through him and working with mental performance coaches and people across various different disciplines, he taught me, and I'm stood on his. We're all stood on the shoulders of giants, right? And I'm stood on his shoulders. That's what he taught me. Is if you can conquer the internal world and make decisions about how and when to deploy certain resources to your external world, that is a true king or a queen. But people that operate solely in warrior, and that's a lot of my work, is catching, maybe you're stuck in warrior, or magician, fear of failure, fear of everything coming down. Maybe you're stuck in your magician. Let me just do some emotional work to calm that down and bring him into check. That's really what we're talking about. So to answer your question in a very long roundabout way through that story, he taught me that. Funny that you mentioned that, because he was literally here this morning.
Yeah. Do you find that people just end up in one of those traits or one of those versions of themselves, and then that's what their identity is, and it's breaking that's the hard part?
Sometimes. So everybody's got strengths, right? So you've got a really strong warrior and a strong magician, but you were putting your magician aside a little bit too much and just going, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. So I don't want you to lose your warrior, because that's one of your strengths. So we can't just take that away. That's like taking away Thierry Henry's left foot. We don't do that. So we don't lose that, but we need to know when he needs to switch it. Thierry needs to switch it to his right foot, or when we need to cut inside, or when we need to change. So yeah, it's working with individuals to identify their strengths, and then also just start to create a stronger foundation in each of the weaknesses. Same with the magician. You have an overactive magician. I have one too. Very creative. You can spot all the opportunities for greatness, and also how everything could go wrong, right? And it's catching the magician and going, magician, you're creating problems for me right now that I don't actually need to worry about. So I need to put the magician in its box. I need to take action with the warrior. Or maybe actually it's King Day. I need to get my lover back involved. I need to calm down. I've not been sleeping enough. I've been working my bollocks off. Breathe, relax. That's what's required. So again, it comes down to having the consciousness to choose that. But everybody will have certain traits. Some people are just people pleasers. They're just lovers, and they just want to give and give and give. And then they wondered why they're so burnt out and tired, because they can't help it. So without doubt.
Do you find that people have two sets of those three? One for business, one for personal life?
Yeah. So I believe the human animal is the same animal across both business and personal. But the way that animal shows up and presents might be a little bit different in each of those areas. So for me as a mental performance coach, you encapsulate it perfectly. I'm here for the personal side to unlock more of my business. So somebody might come to me, I'm overwhelmed at work and I'm stressed about this and this and this and this, but actually maybe they have an insecurity happening outside of work. Maybe it's in their relationship. Maybe it's in their training. Maybe it's in their physique. Maybe it's in whatever it is, but that's burning up energy that could be spent on the business. So sometimes I'll work on the personal side to help them unlock the business side. But how people show up at home, yeah, like some people will be a little bit more dominant with their partner, and they're more aggressive and a bit more controlling, and they're like, why am I so manipulative? Why am I in this space? Others will be the opposite, like super submissive. I just sort of say yes, and I just give, and I don't know how to stand up for myself and whatever. And it's getting to a happy medium. having a boundary. This is a boundary and this is what I care about. But then also, like, if I am the leader in the relationship, or there are certain areas that I lead, here's how I lead. I lead with love and abundance, and doing that from a place of that. So yeah, without a doubt. So how that, like I say, the human animal transitions between work and pleasure and work and home and whatever, but it's the same being. So you've got to learn, that being has got to learn how to manage itself, to stop wasting energy on times that it doesn't need to.
Yeah, I think the reason I asked you that question was I would have, when we started working together, I had this panic, I had this worry about the business. Outside of the business, I don't worry about almost anything. Nothing really phases me. I don't put too much thought into anything that I think is materialistic, anything like that. I don't really care about it. But when it came to the business, it was worry all of the time. And I'm trying to figure out, is it two different sets, or was I spending all of my worry tokens just on the business? And I just didn't even care what was happening outside of the business. So maybe it was just taking all of that and I was putting everything into the business. Yeah. Not to say that I want to worry about anything outside of it, but I always noticed about myself, I was like, why do I worry so much about this? Outside of this, nothing phases me.
What I would say, and this isn't like, Jamie, watch out, but this is just something that I've observed with entrepreneurs, is entrepreneurs that have been in that phase for so long. They're like, business is amazing, I feel great, woohoo, I've nailed it, or maybe I've made an exit and I've sold my company. And then their wife walks out on them. They're like, whoa, what happened? It's like, you weren't here. You were at work the whole fucking time. You just weren't here. So perhaps you over-rotated all of your focus on just work, and perhaps, and this is where you got to work on communication. I'm not saying you specifically, but those listening, where people might experience that, is going, just checking in on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how fulfilled do you feel in our relationship right now? Here's how I feel on a scale of 1 to 10. Oh, we're both at a 6. What's going on? I wouldn't even have thought of that. Whereas you are so laser focused, and that's a good thing, because most people don't. They don't have blinkers on. They're completely wide open, and then they can't concentrate. But sometimes you haven't given it the time and the attention. So as a result, yeah, you've spent all of, you call them worry tokens, you've spent them all on just the business. But as you start to spend more time, start to open up, are there problems there? Maybe yes, maybe no. But if you haven't got the space to explore that, then you never really know. So again, your attention is gripped on the main thing. But time tells. And as you're now broadening your horizons as to what life is, who Jamie is, and how he shows up, you might be surprised. You might realize, oh fuck, this is so much better than I thought. And if I just actually appreciated this, wow, like, this is amazing. Or actually, there's some stuff going on I never even thought about. This could be even better. But now I have the space and the emotional bandwidth to hold my relationship or my personal relationships in a different way.
Yeah, it's something I have thought about quite a bit. Is I think almost every entrepreneur is probably the same. If they start their own company, it's to find freedom. And what ends up happening is you're just completely tied to the business. And you don't enjoy any of your labor. You feel like you can't take a Wednesday morning off. When, if you look back a couple of years, that's probably why you started the business. So I want to work my own hours. Yeah. I want to be able to take time off. I'm not going to have to work for anybody. But when you're really striving for something, that's all you think about. And you don't take a step back to think, I can. Right? And this is why I started this. This is what I want to be doing. So going for a cabana, a few, whatever drinks in the middle of the week, whatever it's going to be, is why I started. But you completely lose sight of that, because everything is goal oriented. If you're that type of person, everything's goal oriented. Until you get there, you're not going to be happy. And then the next goal is there.
I'd say anyone who's listened to this podcast that's like, Kieran's not going to talk about the same story again if you're a regular listener, right? I think I've probably told you this story. You've heard it on a group call. But the one about Steve Jobs?
Which one?
Him dying at the end of his life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that was like the sneakiest little knowledge bomb I've ever read. Read his book. I think Isaac Walterson wrote the book. And he was commissioned to write the book about Steve Jobs' life. And I was like really enjoying the book, and I was like, fucking hell, like, this guy's got some serious psychiatric disorders that's enabling him to push through change. Like, he's like a troubled soul creating amazing things. But it was like on the last couple of pages where he talks about on his deathbed, I think it was his HR manager he was speaking to, and she asked him what was the best thing. Was it the iPhone, the iPad, whatever it was? And he goes, the journey was the reward. It wasn't the iPhone, it wasn't the iPad, it wasn't the Mac, it wasn't any of those things. That wasn't the best bit. The journey itself. So to quote comedian Jimmy Carr, when he's asked what's your meaning of life, he says enjoying the passage of time. So for me, the way in which I work as a coach, once we've gotten the emotional turmoil out of the way, the overwhelm, the anxiousness, the stress, the doubt, the fear, the worry, the panic, all of that, we've built those foundations up, we start going into peak performance stuff. Well, then the next phase is, how can I help this guy or girl enjoy the passage of time more? Like, how good can life be? How much can they enjoy this journey? And watching that transition from scarcity, fear, doubt, whatever, to stable, consistent, to, oh my God, I'm living a life of my dreams that I never thought I could. That's kind of why I do what I do. But to your point, is right at the beginning of that, all you're focused on is the destination of, I've got to have the money, and I've got to have the business, and I've got to have the reputation, and I've got to have. You set up your own business for freedom. Freedom is my highest value. It's probably one of your highest values, and most people listen to the podcast, my clients, really value freedom. So you create your own golden handcuffs, because then it's like, how am I ever going to earn the money that I'm earning without behaving, thinking, feeling, and responding how I currently am? And that's what's got me here, and they get stuck in this loop. They can't actually enjoy what they do. So for me, my definition of a successful human being is somebody that loves what they do deeply. They deeply enjoy what they do. They have fun. They're able to be with themselves, be at peace with themselves, striving for big goals, and being financially really well rewarded for that. And if you can do that and provide for others, and whether that's money or inspiration or help, support, and guidance, that for me is kind of the essence of life. Because I want to live an ambitious life. That's really important to me. What can I go after? How many lives can I change? What impact can I have on the world? And that's where life's more fun and abundant versus I've got to hit this binary number because I told myself in my spreadsheet I would, and if I don't get it, that means I'm not enough, or I'm stupid, or I'm ugly, or not lovable, and it all goes round and round and round and round. So once you get all of that other stuff out of the way, it's just, how much fun can we have?
I think a big thing that helped me figure some of this striving for the stripe balance of the revenue out, because one thing I did was figure out, why are we doing what we're doing, and making that goal not about me. I think you can bring a business to a certain point if it's all based on you wanting freedom. At a certain point you will achieve it, but then what? So we had to sit down and look at what we were doing and figure out, why are we actually doing this? Like, where does it lead? And our whole goal at the moment is to make health coaching more appealing and available to the world's population. And to hit that mission, or to hit that vision, whatever you want to call it, we have to help as many coaches as we can, because coaches, it's the reason I picked coaching as the niche that I work in. I'm not a coach, I haven't been a coach. And for me, I think that's actually what makes me good at what I do. I'm a marketer that works with coaches, and I have worked with over 400 coaches in different niches, here, there, and everywhere, but I have always had a coach. Whether it's business coaching, you as a mindset coach, health coaching, nutrition, whatever, it has always impacted my life for the positive. So I think coaches leave the world in a net positive. They make the world a better place. If you can get a guy who's overweight down to healthy, it doesn't just impact him, it's his wider community, it's his family, it's his wife, it's his kids, everyone benefits. So when we sat down, we're like, we need to actually make that the vision. That alone has made it easier to get through the harder times, or to see progress as building something that works for coaches. And it's not so much about the revenue anymore, because I think that was only bringing me to a certain level. And I think it's just a kind of a negative thing to worship money that much, right? Or to make that the goal. So when we made that goal, that made it easier to see progress in a different way.
Yeah, well, that's why we talk about meaning, purpose. What is my existence here for? And you can't do that when you're trying to get to financial safety. Like in that phase, it's really, really difficult, because you're just trying to figure out, how can I pay my bills? How can I just survive? Once you're past that point, then it's like, oh, why am I here? Mm-hmm. What is the point? For you, you've got two versions of freedom. You've got your coaches, so the more that they succeed, they provide more freedom for their clients. But then also for the coaches that you're enabling, you're also creating financial freedom. For me, it's psychological freedom. And psychological freedom is my bit. That's the bit that excites me. And when I create more psychological freedom in my clients all have very similar values. They give a shit about people. They're very good at what they do. And they know that there's another level. They know there's more, and they want to operate from a place of abundance versus a place of scarcity. And when I unlock freedom in them, they then unlock freedom in those around them. And whether that's financial freedom, whether that's existence, meaning, purpose, fun, enjoying the journey, that's it. But you have to get to that point first. You've got to earn the right in order to get that. And I think that's the beauty of coaching, mentoring, consultancy, or whichever you want to call it. You can just change, just through one line or one perception or one conversation, you can change your whole reality. There was one thing that you wrote down, because you are a good linguist. You do come out with these one-liners that when I write them down, I have a smile. You said, I'm a slave to money. And I said, okay, what do you want to do about that? And you said, I want to make money my slave. And that whole flip in that moment, I'm giving away all my power to this thing. Let me take my money back. And actually I don't have to be in slavery to that thing. But that was the unconscious connection that you made. So one little shift, all of a sudden, the world's different. Reality is different. Nothing's changed. You're still physically Jamie, but the lens upon which you're viewing the world is completely different.
That's helped grow the business a lot. Why? I don't need to hoard money. Money should be my slave, and if I put it to work, I should be able to make more money.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of like I don't know if it's a double negative or running around, but putting it to work as opposed to trying to save it all, because I grew up with not much, right? And having that in your head of, I need to save, right? I just need to be safe. And that for me was coming through money. But when we had that conversation, I said, yeah, how do I make money my slave? I would make it do what I want it to do. Which was, for me, it was like, let's double ad spend, because we can.
And then you did.
And then we did.
And then what happened?
Then we essentially doubled the business. Yeah, we've had our best month ever just last month. It's come from two things, I guess, that we've spoken about. One was making money my slave, and the other was actually having fun and being creative with it, which was, let's test this, let's just do it and see if it works, because I am safe and I can do it. It's not going to break the business. And just realizing that, it was really, looking back, it's really hard to kind of resonate with the fact that I was really so worried about it, really so worried about revenue and sales and money.
Jamie, it's what we used to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's all you used to message me about.
That was it. Again, it stuck with me, you saying, why is a bad month just about revenue? Nobody's died. You're healthy. You're safe.
The line I used was, you're writing off a whole month. A whole month of your existence based on a binary number on a screen. What?
It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And again, we weren't struggling. I just wasn't hitting levels where I knew I could get to. And that was really hurting. But I would write off the entire month. It was a bad month. Which is, it's hard to look back and look at it that way. Yeah. I know now, if we have what you would call a low revenue month and what I call a low revenue month now, that's fine. But what else do we get done? And that's how I'm looking at it. Again, the progress of looking at, are we progressing towards the main mission of making health coaching more appealing and available to our population? If we are, good, it's a good month.
So we instantly took all the power back, because you was giving all your power away. You're basing your existence and your worth and your value in the world based on just stripe. Mm-hmm. Where you provide value in so many other different ways. So by essentially getting you back to king, right? Low revenue month, what action needs to be required in order to do that? Warrior, go to work. Versus magician, what does this mean about me and my place in the world and where we're going and what we're going to do? And that's evidence of you unconsciously flipping from the magician who's trying to tell you the world's falling apart and you're not lovable, or warrior, well, I'm going to have to sort this out because he's shitting himself again, so I got to go and sort this out. It's a king. Hang on a minute, it's fine. We've got food in the farms, we've got grain in the stores, We've got a whole army to put to work. When my magician's in check, I've got one of the sharpest magicians in the world. I'm going to do it with love and care and look after everyone. So what needs to happen? Magician, what you got? Why don't we double ad spend? All right. Warrior, go to work. Go and make that happen. Boom. That's essentially what's happening on an unconscious level. You might not see it in the moment, but as you're getting control of yourself and that self-mastery, the compound effect of those decisions and what you can do, man, it's just like, it's so fun. Like, you really don't realize how much fun you can have on the journey.
It's weird. It feels like a complete 180, because it feels now if we had a low revenue month, I don't really give a fuck, you know, because I know what we're actually building. We're doing really cool shit. We are changing other people's lives, like our coaches. It's like, why was I so attached to that as the metric of doing good or progressing or being smart or being safe? So it's completely changed, and that has allowed the business to grow, which is, it's weird how it works.
Yeah, it's also weird because I'm not a business mentor, yet my clients make more money, right? So how does that work? Well, they just need to learn to manage themselves better, because if they have more energy, they're more calm, they're more creative, and they can spot more opportunities than others and actually have the confidence to execute on those. No one knows your mountain better than you. I can't tell you how to run your business. I can't tell you to do these things. I just got to help you get out of your own way. I know that's such a cliche in coaching, but that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, I knew that when I came to you first. I probably said it to you at some point. I was like, I feel like I am holding myself back. I don't know why, and I don't know where it is, but something in me is holding myself back. And it was just going around and around in circles.
The metaphor I like to use now is the ambitious mind is a little bit like a Ferrari. And if you don't know how to drive a Ferrari and you take it on a track and you hit it full pelt, it's just going to spin out and out and out and out. Or if you've got a lot of challenging emotions or lack of belief, it's like driving that Ferrari with a handbrake on, or 2 handbrakes on, and 3 handbrakes on. When you can learn self-mastery, essentially what I teach is to identify what those handbrakes are and lift the handbrakes. And when you can do that, that's where the journey becomes really fun. If we look at what we've done is we've taught you how to drive your individual Ferrari. We've lifted some handbrakes, and actually, instead of you panicking, oh my God, whoa, it's like, hey, how smoothly can you go around the bend? Actually, I can slow down and speed up. Okay. And now we're getting you around the track quicker. And because you're getting around the track quicker, now the prizes are getting bigger. How cool is that?
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I think, you know, Hormozy always starts his podcast with the most successful in business see it as a game. And I always wanted to be able to see it that way. That's the way I see it now. I definitely see it as a game. And we're constantly trying something new. If it doesn't work, I'm okay with it. So yeah, it's been a 180 for me in terms of how I see things now. And it's allowed me to be so much better at business, which, bringing back to what you said I came to you for, was I want to sort my head out so I'm better at business. Yeah.
And if you're going to say, Kieran, here are the top 3 outcomes of doing the inner work, because a lot of people are suspicious about the inner work. Is it really a thing? Like, talking about emotions, or I don't really want to open up. Like, I'm not really sure. What would you say to those individuals? Well, look, here are the outcomes I've experienced, and this is why you should think about it.
Yeah, well, I'm, exhibit A of, I told you I am having buyer's remorse. I'm not sure if this is actually what I want to do. I'm not sure if this is going to work. And on that first call, I came off it. As I said, I was in tears at the end of that call. It was really strange. But it felt like lifting one of those handbrakes that I didn't even know it was there, but it was. It's really surprising what you can uncover when you actually stop to do the work. I've always done work on things, like I said, I've always had a coach, never like this. It's never been this deep to the point where it actually is change. We've had business mentors where you change something and your business grows, great. But if you aren't changing, the driver of the car, well, you probably end up, I'm not going to say you'll end up back where you were, but I think until you become the person that can do those things, it's very hard to manage them when they come your way. So takeaways are, it's hard to say anything other than it works. If you put the work in, it works. And that's one thing I definitely did, was if there was extracurricular, if there was work to do outside of working with you on calls, it was getting done. But I am just so much more calm in the business. I'm driving it in a much more straight line. I'm not starting and stopping. And I'm not seeing it as life and death anymore. I'm actually seeing it as something that is fun. And I never really knew if I could get to that point. Because for me, growing up, work wasn't the thing that was fun. You know, it was never fun. It was always just what you had to do. You have to do it. I had big issues with, because I grew up in a small farm. And my brother always says the same. He always says to me, he's like, you could never understand why we were doing it. He's like, from a young age, I would say, why? There's got to be better ways. There's got to be easier ways to make money. Why are we out in the rain, chasing animals around the field? So there's got to be better ways. Why don't our family just sell all this land? We'd have so much more money. I could never wrap my head around, why is work so hard? But it just got ingrained into me that work is supposed to be hard. I don't think it is.
You know, that just unlocked something in my childhood that you shared there. So my parents don't love their work. They really don't. Like, my dad's always worked in factories. My mum's always just worked in admin in an office. And they've had a lot of times where they hate their jobs. And as a kid, I was like, why'd you do that? If you hate that, why? And I was very lucky because I refused to do anything that I hated, because I knew I couldn't perform. I knew it just wouldn't work. And I've always had that question, like, why does work have to be something that you hate doing? Why does work have to be something you don't enjoy? And I think society kind of is like, well, work is work. Or can't work still be work? Because I actually enjoy working hard. I enjoy pushing myself. I like that. Yeah. I like a bit of graft. But why can't it be fun graft? And if you can find fun graft at something that you're very good at, something that you enjoy, and something that you can get paid for, like, that's part of the secret, because you spend so much time doing, quote, work, right?
How do you find the fun when you're really struggling, when you really hate what you're doing?
Yeah. So great question. I always think if you're really struggling and you hate what you're doing, you got to ask yourself, how long have you been struggling for, and how long have you hated what you're doing? Because if it's been a week, toughen up, mate. Crack on. If it's been 18 months and you've been really struggling and you've been hating what you're doing, you're probably doing the wrong thing. You're probably in the wrong line of work, or the way in which you're approaching what you're doing isn't the right thing. So for me, I like speaking to human beings. That's probably my strongest skill set, is listening, coaching, mentoring, being coached, speaking, speaking gigs, podcasts, those sorts of things. That's my bag. Operations, not my bag. Mm-hmm. Having really strict, clean systems, or being able to look at, I've had to learn this the hard way, of like profit and loss and cash flow and figuring all of that out. Not my strong point, right? So if I do a job that's full of things that aren't my strong point, that I'm not good at and I don't enjoy, of course I'm going to struggle, and of course I'm going to find things hard. But sometimes you have to get lost on your path, and you've got to do stuff you don't enjoy, that you're not good at, for a series of times to realize, hey, that's not for me. I don't want that. Or you're changing as an individual, and what used to light you up doesn't light you up anymore. I experienced that in software sales. I got to a point where I was like, why am I selling data analytics platforms? Why am I selling software? I don't enjoy any of this. I enjoy coaching the team. I enjoy helping the juniors. I don't enjoy any of this. What am I doing it for? But I was good at it, but I stopped enjoying it because I'd changed. So then you got to recognize, well, how long have I been struggling for? How much do I hate this? If it's like a couple of weeks, like, get over it. Just coming from somebody that's qualified as a therapist, some therapists listening to this might kick off, but quite frankly, like, man up. Just get on with it. You want to be an entrepreneur, like, suck it up. But there does come a point where if you don't enjoy what you do, you're not good at it, and you're really struggling, and it's been going on for a long time, then you've got to ask yourself, is this actually the best way? Is this the smartest way? And you can either A, change what you're doing, B, change your approach, or C, find someone to help you to go, I'm doing it this way and it's not working, I'm not enjoying it. But that's also your own fault. So I think that's like your fault that you're in that situation. So you have to learn, right, well, what do I need to do to change, to adapt in order to thrive and do something I enjoy? But look.
Do you think, because I hear this thrown around quite a bit, that business is pain, business is inherently going through pain. Do you resonate with that at all?
Owning a business?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you can take pain as a kick in the nuts and you hit the floor and like, this is the worst thing in the world. Or you can turn it sadistically, like a dominatrix has kicked you in the nuts and you go, oh, thank you. I kind of like that. Nice. And if you're going to be in business, that's what you got to learn, right? That's essentially what you got to learn. You got to learn to enjoy being kicked in the nuts, because you're going to get kicked in the nuts again and again and again. People will betray you. They won't follow up on their agreements. They will, competitors will come and do some underhand tactics. Markets are going to change. Businesses are going to change. It's going to happen, right? So as an entrepreneur, you got to develop a really thick skin and a resilience. And almost like me and Ron talk about this scar tissue. It's developing a scar tissue where it's like, oh, ouch. Oh, that really hurt. Kick me in the nuts again. Come on. Like that, you got to learn to love that. And not everyone can. Not everyone can, first of all, not everyone can get up from the commercial kick in the nuts. But the second part is that some people can't actually enjoy it. Other people really enjoy that and actually can cause self-sabotage and harm through the crazy business risks they take, but at the same time they also win really big. If you look at Phil Knight at Nike, he was getting kicked in the nuts all the time, but he was just betting the farm every single turn, and every single bet that he made, they didn't all work out. There were a lot of failures, but eventually they cancelled each other out and he built Nike, right? So that's a guy that inherently likes that. So to answer your question, yes, I do think business is pain, but it's up to you. Do you like pain? Do you enjoy pain? Can you learn to enjoy pain? That's really the question, versus an A equals B equation as well. Can you learn to love it? And I have moments in business where I'm like, that was so painful. All right, I've learned the lesson. Bring it on. And learning to laugh, man. I actually laugh at myself. If I make a mistake, sometimes I just go, you are such a fucking idiot. Like, you are such a... Like you with your little brother. What did you do that for? You numpty. What made you think that would work, right? And it's having fun and not taking the game so seriously, because otherwise you have all this pressure.
Why do you often ask, what did you expect? When I come to you with something, it's like, this happened.
Yeah.
Why do you often ask, what did you expect?
Because the problem isn't the problem. The problem is your expectation that it should have been different is the issue. So one of my staff members has left me for a competitor. What do you fucking expect? You built a great business. Competitors are going to want your staff, so they're going to offer more money. And if you haven't done a great job at keeping them happy and paying them well enough, they're going to get poached. What did you expect? Or, I don't know, a competitor's copying all my shit. What did you expect? If you're going to be a market leader, people are going to come and steal your shit. Or did you expect that everyone was just going to leave you alone and it was just going to be peaceful and easy? So that question for me is, it's grounding. It helps me go, yeah, what did I expect? What, did I have an expectation that business or entrepreneurship or coaching was going to be easy? Of course not. Same with my inner work. Sometimes I come off a call with my mentors, much less now, but like I'll be in tears. And I'll be like, what do I expect? I put myself in the ring of fire for a reason. Like, well, what do I expect? So for me, it's an existential grounding question. And then I can laugh at myself. The quicker I can get back to laughing at myself, this is ridiculous. You're worrying about this stuff. You just release the tension of, yeah, numpty, you're getting stressed again.
It's a really good pattern interrupt where it makes you stop and just think, right, yeah, it was silly to think it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, you've said it to me a couple of times. And when you say it, it stops you in your tracks. It is a pattern interrupt for me. It's like, all right, you're being stupid. You're being silly. You're thinking about this too much. Just get back to work.
Yeah. What did you expect? What, you expected any different? And another thing is like, my team member or my partner didn't do the thing that, I thought them to do. What did you expect? Humans are volatile. Yeah, but we've got an SOP. Yeah, we do. But humans are volatile. What did you expect? What, you think a human being is just a robot? This isn't an automation piece. Humans are, they're not perfect. And as leaders, we can get frustrated. Why didn't the team member do this? Yeah. And do this and do this without actually asking the questions? How did that happen? What's really going on? So, yeah, just what did you expect for me? It's actually so valuable for me. I've actually thought about getting it tattooed on my left pec in reverse. So when every day I look in the mirror, I can see it said, what did you expect? As like a pattern interrupt. Oh yeah, all the things I'm worrying about. What did I expect? You're going to invest in a new company, and all of this legislation that you weren't aware of, all these new bills and what did you expect? You've got no experience in that sector. Dope.
It's a catch-all, isn't it?
Yeah.
It works in any situation.
Yeah, exactly. Even if things go well and things are going amazingly. What did you expect? Like, why not? Like, why couldn't things have gone so swimmingly? Like, why not? That's really that's really what it's about. So I like asking this question to every guest on the TMP podcast. Forget total mental performance, forget me, forget all of that entity in that organism. But what does the phrase total mental performance mean to you? If you had it, how would you know?
I think total mental performance is being the master of your emotions in a way. Like what we spoke about, being able to decide that I'm maybe going to feel this way about this. It's having the perspective over it. It's just being able to look down on your mental state with much more clarity. I think it's being able to look back in a much more clear way. And it's also being able to look forward with confidence and being able to use both of those tracks. So your previous experiences and where you're actually going to make today what you want it to be. So I think it's what it says in the tin. It's everything, right? It's your mental state dictating everything else in your life. I think if you can control it, I'm not saying I'm there. Maybe you wouldn't say you're there either, but I think moving that needle before you try and move the business needle, I think is wise.
What would you say to anyone that's on the fence about potentially getting in touch, whether that's with me, TMP, or doing some of this work, and they're like, oh, I really want to, but I'm holding back, and I'm not really sure, like, will it work, will it not, like, I kind of want to do it, but I don't know. What would you say to them?
So what do you expect? Of course you're on the fence. You know, it's an investment. So of course you're on the fence. And you haven't done it yet, so you don't know if it's going to work. So again, what did you expect? I would say jump on a call, see if you resonate with it, see if it's going to work for you. You'll be able to tell, I believe, from a call. I think your reputation precedes you yourself. So I would say look at the long list of case studies and testimonials and results and use that towards your decision. Because that's what I did, and it's worked.
Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to share on the podcast while you're here?
That is it. Any coaches out there that are looking for help around their advertising, lead gen, sales, retention of their business can reach out, drop me a message on Instagram. I'm happy to chat.
Where can they find you?
So Instagram is Jamie Costello Jamie Costello _ RPM. I'm not that good on social, but that's where they'll find us. And then from there you can click around and see our case studies, testimonials, all the stuff that you've done, but what we do with our guys. And then just drop us a DM. Cool.
Well, look, Jamie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and thank you for being such an incredible client, because it's you and individuals like you which gets me out of bed in the morning. It's that fun, that chaos, that he's just not seeing it yet. He's just in his own way. That makes my existence incredible. If money didn't exist, I'd coach you for free every single day. The problem is, in our game, if you don't pay for something, you don't value it. Right. I can't give it away, sadly. But what I would say is that it's been great fun. Like, I always look forward to our calls, always can just see the pennies dropping, and I can see the resistance. And I've deeply enjoyed the entire process. I understand it on your side of the fence. It's probably been quite a tricky process at times, not the most enjoyable. But looking at you now, like, it's been everything that I was hoping it would be. Like, it's been tough. I said it to you probably on our first call. I'm not here for something that's easy. So if you can push me, push me. And there was points where it wasn't easy, and points where it was uncomfortable, and there was points where I was like, I don't get it. Why are we doing this? But it has worked. There's nothing else I can say about it other than it has worked. I don't have panic every day when I wake up. I'm not a slave to Stripe. I don't even really care about it. I'm viewing my business differently. It's growing, and we're actually really providing a huge amount of value to a lot of people, and that's the focus now. So
It's worked. It's been, like I said, it's been a 180 for me. So thank you.
Beautiful. Guys, if you found this podcast helpful, please share it with the world, whether that's out on your story, whether that's just sharing the share links to anyone and leaving a review. Our quest for psychological freedom and total mental performance continues. Infinite love, and enjoy the next episode.